Brown here, no matter where you are and no matter what part of the world you are in. I hope that you're having a good day. I was just on Twitter, I think. Anyway, lady posted a picture, divorced AF. There was some balloons in her background, and she's sitting with a gown on in a chair, and the balloons spell out divorced and then AF. So of course the men are crashing out. One man, they're like, oh, that's probably why you're divorced. And the caption says like, oh, think of all the women who never made it out. So then this one guy goes, do you know how many men never made it out of a divorce with all their money and their properties? As if that's what the topic is about. But it's not. It's about this woman who made it out of obviously a bad relationship, a bad marriage, and she's thankful to be divorced. And this is her way of celebrating. And a lot of times men get mad because men feel like whatever woman they decide to marry, she's supposed to just stay and deal with whatever. It could be mental, emotional, financial, physical, even sexual abuse. And they expect her to just stay and deal with it. And some women do it. Some women do for a long time. Some women may do it for months. Some women may do it for years. Some maybe do it for 2 to 3 decades or longer. But it's not without consequences, right? And I've said this before, and I don't think that men believe it, right? You're cheating on her, you're beating her, or whatever it is that you're doing, and you're sleeping next to her and you're eating the food that she cooks. And you're an idiot. Because most of the time you think that you're getting away with it, and most of the time you're not. Right? And if she's not poisoning your food, then she is sleeping with someone else, right? She's doing the same thing you're doing, probably at the same time, right? Especially if you're not around each other 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Because for some people, it only takes like 5 minutes for them to bust a nut. I don't know if I'm supposed to be saying this on YouTube. I'm just kind of speaking my mind right now. Forgive me if that's not something that I was supposed to say. And yes, I could find another way to say it. But that's kind of how it came out. So I remember a time I was dating someone and I stopped. We went our separate ways. And in between relationships, I have always given myself time to reflect on a relationship, to see what I did wrong and how I can be better going forward in the next relationship. And for the most part, I've always been relationship oriented. That's how I was raised. So even the times where I did have a situationship with someone, I would cry after because it didn't feel good to me. Like that temporary moment of pleasure, you know how some people will be all happy and singing and dance. That wasn't me. I would be like, why did I do that? That I shouldn't have done that. That didn't feel good because, again, for me, it's about having someone that cares, being in that relationship. So for the most part, I've been in relationships. And I've had some relationships that have lasted years, right? But sometimes things just don't work out. And So again, I would give myself time in between relationships. I remember one of my exes, his friend said, "Oh, you're not going without sex. Nobody does that." And there are and over the years, I realized a lot of men think that, because most men think with their animalistic brain below the waist, that primitive caveman type of thinking, because they only think with their third leg. They think that most women think that way too, and some do, and some men don't. So it's not about gender necessarily, but I would say such a large majority of men think from the waist down, that again, everything revolves around that for them. Whereas there's so much more to life than that. And I think that's one of the things that makes people go wrong in relationships, because the man is just like, oh, we just need, a place, some food to eat, and, just be satisfied with the decision that we've made. And I understand that to a certain extent, right? I even had a man say that relationships are not about being happy. And again, I can understand that to a certain extent. A relationship may not necessarily be about being happy, but I also don't think that it's about being miserable. And so because a large majority of people would rather stay and be miserable just to say, oh, they kept this marriage together and it didn't fail, or to not look like a disgrace in front of their family or friends. This is usually one of, and of course people say they stay for the kids, which may or may not be true, right? They say they're staying for the finances, because sometimes women, the man is the breadwinner and the woman is not. But anyway, underneath this post, one of the guys even called the lady a bitch. Like, why? I don't understand why we name call because we disagree. You don't even know that. Like I said, I can't remember all of what I said, and I can't remember his complete statement, but I basically said, like, you don't even know that lady. Why are you calling her a bitch? Like, how did her being thankful that she is divorced warrant her being called a bitch? So to me, that says that person went through some type of divorce or breakup, and now he feels like taking it out on someone else who doesn't have anything to do with the relationship that he had. And the fact that he called this woman a bitch, he was probably a monster in his relationship, right? Because if he calls this lady that he doesn't know over the internet, I'm sure he probably called his ex all types of names. And again, now he's mad because she didn't deal with it. She didn't just stay and put up with whatever he was ready, willing, and able to dish out. And the nerve, the audacity that someone should have to be put up with any mental, emotional, or physical abuse. Why? What is it about you that's so important, that's so good, that's so valuable, that someone should just put up with your foolishness? I've never met anybody that was worth any of that. Nobody. I'm not sure when we lost, like, what happened to good character and being a good person. I remember one of the jobs I worked at, the guys was like, what qualities do you want in a man? And I said, good character. And they said, and money too, right? I said, you didn't hear me say money. I said good character. Yeah, but he got to have money too, right? When people already have something made up in their mind, even if you're telling them your truth, they don't believe it. They can't ever receive it because they've already made up in their mind that all women just want money. Just like me feeding the homeless. Oh, what you doing this weekend? Oh, I'm going to go feed the homeless. Feed the homeless? They just want drugs. Are you kidding me? Do you know how many people, like families, are out, with their children with no place to stay? And this has been going on for a long time. So you mean to tell me that, it's not that these parents couldn't afford to, rent a place. They just wanted to get high. And so they decided to bring the whole family to live, in a car or in a shelter or on the street. Really? No, that's unrealistic. And this is part of the problem. People don't get to know other people, right? They don't get to know people. They just make assumptions. And these assumptions are based on their own experience. People typically only speak from their place of experience. So if you have someone in conversation, let's just say it's 3 people, right? One is wealthy. This wealthy person is very soft-spoken, has a certain etiquette and dignity about themselves. Not in an arrogant way, very down to earth, very humble, whichever, right? Then you may have another person who, and let's say this person, they had both parents, right, growing up. And it was a very balanced household. Then you may have another person who's, let's say their parents are together too. Let's say both their parents are school teachers. Again, well balanced, not as much money. Maybe this person is a little loud, a little boastful because, they grew up middle class, right? Then maybe you have this third person who, again, parents are together, but let's just say the father is an alcoholic and he's abusive to the mother and the children. And so let's say they're all at lunch, right? Let's say they grew up together. Let's say they all went to the same high school. I don't know. But although they may have a similar perspective because they all grew up in a 2-parent household, they still had different experiences. So the wealthy person who grew up, in a soft-spoken household, maybe they wanted to rebel and, be in the quote-unquote street by hanging out with people that wasn't necessarily in their circle in their financial circle, right? But in terms of the relationship, again, you have one that, the wealthy one's like, oh, well, we went on vacations to Milan and Australia and, we went somewhere every year or more than once a year, right? Maybe the school teacher, maybe they went on vacation, camping vacations. Then you have the abusive household. Maybe they never went anywhere or did anything other than maybe go get a pizza or, something like that. So again, even their perspective of men or women is going to be different. Each one of these households, and this is not gender specific, but in those individual households, again, the perception from that child, male or female, is going to be different once they go out into the world. So let's say the wealthy family, the mother was there most of the time. So this person saw the mom do majority of the work around the house, and the dad maybe was hardly ever home. But not because he was necessarily cheating, but because maybe he had a business, maybe he traveled a lot, whatever the case may be. School teachers, they would be home after school, helping do homework, maybe sharing the responsibility of the household chores, and things of that nature. Then you had the other household where, again, maybe the mom was so emotionally distraught, she didn't keep house. Maybe they didn't have food all the time because the husband drank it up. Maybe he couldn't keep a job. Maybe she couldn't keep a job because, every time you turn around, she had a black eye and she didn't want to go to work like that. And so she kept getting fired. Whatever. These perspectives are going to be different because the experiences were different. And so a lot of times people say, oh, well, I want somebody who's family oriented. But if you have somebody who grew up in a toxic household, toxic environment, it does not mean that that person is not family oriented. It just means that they didn't have a family to orient to. So once you get in a relationship with somebody, you don't just marry that person, you also marry their relatives. And so if this person say, well, I'm basically estranged from my relatives because they're toxic, how do you then say, oh, well, that just means you're not family oriented? So that person should be around their toxic family and just, like I remember a situation where like the mom got into the face of the new boyfriend type of thing. So would you want to be on the other end of that unwarranted argument or disagreement because she feels insecure about her daughter having a man because she doesn't? Like, make it make sense. You can't. Everybody's situation is different. So even if it's somebody's mom, somebody's dad, you cannot decide how that person, shows up in relationship with this other person. But everybody has their reasons. So again, going back to this divorced AF. Again, some people stay and just deal with things that they don't really want to deal with, just to say that they're still married or that the marriage didn't fail. Again, some people do it for the children. I can understand both sides of every coin, no matter what the scenario is. But there are some people who only have a one-track mind. They're very closed-minded, and they can only see from the perspective that they experienced. And so again, you have people in her comments calling her names and saying it's probably her fault. Again, one guy said, well, that's probably why you're divorced. That doesn't even make sense. She's probably divorced because she wanted to get divorced? Huh? Like, how does that doesn't make sense. If she's saying some people never make it out of their miserable marriages and I'm divorced AF, that obviously means that she wanted the divorce. So to then turn around and say that's probably why you're divorced, that doesn't make sense. So it's like people are just talking just to hear themselves talk because they feel some kind of way. Because again, either a woman left them and they can't understand it, although they know they weren't the best person. And this is the whole thing. Like, a lot of times people know exactly what they're doing. But again, people feel some men feel like once they got the woman to a certain place, whether it be a marriage, a baby, living together, whatever it is, they feel like once they get her there, that's it. She's not going anywhere, which does happen with some women. But you cannot lump every woman in the same category and think that you can mistreat her and that she's just going to stay. Same thing with men. You cannot put a man, oh, I put this good thing on him. Although, yes, we know that we can get most men with sex. You can just, walk up to a man and say, oh, hey. And I'm not saying every man, but let's just say you work with somebody and he's been trying to take you out or sleep with you or whatever the case may be. You can just literally go up to this person and say, hey, let's go ahead on and do that now. And they're going to be like, oh, cool. Right? It's not hard for women to get sex. And I think that's one of the things that pisses men off, because, a lot of men can't take rejection. They don't want to do the right thing, but they also don't want to be rejected. I'm really not sure how that works, though. If you meet a woman and she says, I'm not going to tolerate this and I'm not going to even if she doesn't verbally say it out of her mouth, but she shows it with her actions, and you still try to play her and then she leaves you, I'm not really sure why did you think that was, but you thought that once you gave her some of that D, though, once she got some of that good D, you thought she was going to be all strung out and all in there, huh? Yeah, there's nothing that's, once a woman has made up her mind, or as that R. Kelly song goes, when a woman's fed up, there's nothing that you can say. There's nothing that, she don't give a damn about no D or the money, none of that. Even if she takes the money, she gonna take it, but that doesn't mean she wants to be with you. Like, I'm not trying to be mean, but, I think some people think that they're much more special than they really are. And again, this is not, everyone should have confidence. You should definitely have confidence. But to have confidence to think that, again, someone is just going to allow you to mistreat them for the rest of their life and they're just going to stay is a bit ridiculous. Because, yeah, that's just ridiculous. Because it doesn't work that way, right? Again, some women will stay. They, some were raised that way. Some just feel like it's the right thing to do. And again, some of them are doing them too. So they don't care. Not that they don't care, but it's like, oh, he's cheating. Oh, my turn. I'm going to cheat too. Because again, most women have nothing but space and opportunity in which to do so. When men are offering a dime a dozen, it's not even special. There's nothing. And, as one of my aunts said, they're all the same. Some might be long, some might be short, some might lean to the side, but it's all the same thing. Like, there's nothing special about it. Just like a lot of men say there's nothing special about a woman, but if you know, right? If you have that spirituality in you, then you know. If you have any type of intelligence in terms of like Mother Nature and the feminine aspects of Earth and the universe, then you know. But again, if you don't know and you just take everything for face value and think, the womb is just something for you to release in, then no, you're not going to see the value. I also saw another post earlier, I believe on Facebook, about Yada. I'm not sure if y'all know who he is, but anyhow, he became a millionaire from selling his natural products. And I think he's a polygamist, but I'm not sure. But anyway, he would brag about, oh, this is how you should treat your woman. And he gives her $1 million allowance every year. I think he said they have like 4 or 5 children together. Or maybe she had 1 or 2 before they got married. I don't know. But come to find out today, he abuses her. Right? And she posted it on the internet. So I'm going to assume that she's leaving him. So again, it's not about the money. There are men who are millionaires, and there are some women who, put up with the abuse, and there are some women who do not. There are some men who are not millionaires, and there are some women who put up with the abuse, and there are some women who do not. And if a woman decides to, that is totally up to her. I know I've said this before. I remember pastor's wife. She came into IHOP. They ate breakfast and they were getting ready to leave. And she was like, I'm so miserable. I can't wait for him to die. I'm not sure if people realize how serious that is. Because a lot of times if the woman's waiting for you to die, she's doing something to help facilitate this faster. Right? Again, you may be doing you, but you're still eating her food and you're still sleeping in the bed. And your brain is not even thinking that she would do something to seek revenge. Because a lot of men think that women are stupid. So again, if she's staying and she's dealing with it, it may not be without consequences. Whether she's doing something behind the scenes to your food or with another man. Right? Remember the movie The Best Man? And he didn't know, and he wouldn't have known if his friend didn't write that book. I think it's so funny, and I've always had more male friends over the years than female friends, and I used to always think it was so funny when they would say, oh, my so-and-so is not doing anything. And a lot of times I would be friends with the so-and-so, and I knew what the so-and-so was doing. But I also knew what they were doing. If I'm friends with both people, it's none of my business. I'm staying out of it. I'm not, oh, girl, he's so-and-so and so-and-so. No, I'm not doing that. I'm going to mind my business. Because that can go either way. If it's the guy, of course he could get mad at you. Of course the girl can get mad at you. But a lot of times with women, even if you tell them, they get mad or they still stay. Even if they believe you, even if they know, they still stay. So why bother? Mind your business. I mean, and if you know this person really well and you know that they wouldn't get upset with you about it, then by all means share. But if you're not sure, sometimes it's best to just stay out of it. And if it takes that person 20, 30 years to get a divorce or never, that's, that's their prerogative. They can do whatever they want to do. And if it's really that bad, then sometimes you just have to distance yourself from some people. And again, I know that that's not necessarily the easiest thing to do, but sometimes it's the best thing to do. Just because I know a lot of people feel like, oh, well, I was friends with this person in elementary school and we've known each other for 20 or 30 years, so this is my friend. And that may be true. But you never really know a person and people change. And just because that relationship worked 20 years ago, in that 21st year, maybe it's not the best thing for you at that time. And that doesn't mean you don't have to be friends at all, but maybe you just see each other occasionally. Maybe you don't talk as much. And then when you do talk, we just catch up. And if that person is, talking about something that you don't want to hear because you know that they're still in this miserable relationship, oh, I gotta go. Let me call you back. I don't know. However you decide to handle it. Because I've noticed that sometimes when you tell people you don't want to hear it, they don't like it. Because they feel like, oh, you're my friend, you're just supposed to listen to me complain. But they're not thinking about how draining that is. It's very emotionally draining. And it's unfortunate to hear somebody be stuck in the same cycle where they're saying the same thing over and over again, and they're not doing anything different to get any type of different result. And it's like they're putting themselves through this torture because they're dealing with it when they don't really want to. They don't know a way out. If you make a suggestion, they don't take your advice, and they don't have to. That's the thing. Like, they don't have to take your advice, but you don't have to keep listening to them complain either. See how that works? And say, oh boy, here this person go again, right? Instead of you talking to this person, then you go back and gossip. Let me tell you, but this so and so and so and so and so. Because really now you're draining yourself because you're dealing with something that you don't really want to deal with. And then you're spreading the gossip with someone else, right? Instead of just letting it go and moving on with your life. And being divorced AF is an example of moving on with your life. Regardless of what the situation is, regardless of who likes it, doesn't like it, and men are gonna crash out because that's what they do. Because again, they feel like no matter what, just because they're a man, you're just supposed to want to deal with their nonsense. And that's nonsense. And too many are not willing to do the right thing. And you don't have to. That's my whole thing. You don't have to do the right thing, but I don't have to deal with you not doing the right thing either. There's nothing that I don't give a damn how good the sex. I don't give a. I don't care about how good the sex is. I don't care about how much money you have. I don't care how big your house is. I don't care what kind of car you drive. Do you have good character? Do you have integrity? Do you have respect? Do you know how to treat people? And are you ready, willing, and able to do this every day, consciously,